mayoral candidates. Let me turn it over to Susan for a quick announcement.
Thank you. The second section of tonight's forum will include the candidates for mayor of Pocatello. The format will be the same. We'll call on each candidate. We will have 1 minute for their introduction. We'll then rotate through the candidates where they will have 1 minute to answer your question. And then at the end, each candidate will have the opportunity to give a closing statement. And remember, all candidates will be available to speak to you in the foyer.
Similar to our city council forum, all the questions came from the community. They see the Idaho State Journal. So we're using all those questions. And every candidate in this race was invited. So we appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight. So we're going to start with opening statements. You'll have 1 minute to start with that. I'll start with you, Brian.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. It's interesting. I can hardly hear you over there. Everybody else can hear you very good. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the Idaho State Journal for opening this up and making this available to everybody in the community. And thank you for allowing us candidates that are willing to come and take the questions, be here and answer some of those questions. So thank you very much. I'm Brian Blatt. I'm the mayor of Pocatello right now, and I look back and see what we've accomplished over the many years that I've been there, and we've done an awful lot of things. At the time when I took office, unemployment was 10.8%. Today it's 3.7%. Our wages have increased a tremendous amount. Average hourly wage at the time I took office was about $9.40. Today it's over $22 an hour for an average hourly wage. Thank you.
My name is Steve Brown. I'm grateful to be here tonight, and I'm also grateful to be with some good people. I'm also grateful to be with some really good people. The one thing that I can say about this year's mayoral race is that there is an option. There's a choice from one side to the other. I'm not talking politics. I'm not talking political ideology. I'm talking about good people delivering what we want to do. I've spent my whole life in Pocatello. I got here when I was 3 days old, so I wasn't born here technically. But I was raised here. I raised my kids here, and I want Pocatello to be a place where they can stay as well if they choose. My campaign isn't about flashy promises this year. It's about bringing our community together, the left, the right, and the center, those that are politically homeless, in trying to returning our government to the service of the people in humility and accountability.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Tolquist. I'm running for the mayoral position, obviously. I want to thank the organizers of the forum tonight, as well as all of you being here. I can't see you very well because I've got light shining right in my eyes here, but I was born and raised in Pocatello. I'm a Highland High School graduate, Idaho State University Business Management major. A lot of people know me through my activities in the community. I consider myself a real community champion, if you will. I've been the Chamber of Commerce board member. I've been a member of the Community Beautification Committee for 30 years. I put on, I'm a major organizer of the community-wide spring cleanup every year, every May. I'm on the Portland Valley Partners Board of Directors and the Homeless and Housing Coalition Board. Had a long career on Farmers Insurance in many management positions for 18 years. Currently, I'm the Executive Director at Mayoral Pocatello. We're a very large community development organization that specializes in community revitalization and affordable housing. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Alana Mayoral. I grew up in Moscow, Idaho, actually, and then I moved here in 2023 to take a position at ISU recruiting and I have sponsors downtown and on the roads with the Small Business Administration. I'm up here doing this, running tonight, because I quickly felt like Pocatello was my home. People here have been warm, they've been welcoming, and I believe in service. I want to serve the community by bringing back trust in the institutions that govern us. Thank you.
Our first question will be about community relations. It's going to go to Mark Bellhurst first. What is your vision for Pocatello?
Yeah, my vision for Pocatello is that being a community that people love, that we're proud of, affordable housing for everyone, job stability, growing incomes. I think we need to have a very good curb appeal and sense of vibrancy for our community. One of my campaign themes is that let's grow economic development by making Pocatello shine and compete. I think when we're trying to attract businesses and the curb appeal isn't really what it should be out there, but I think we've got to sell our community and have a good presence. I see a vision community where people are highly involved, but Pocatello, I think one of the big attributes that we have is that people are willing to roll up their sleeves and they have high community spirit. So let's harness that community spirit, grow together, and make our community more vibrant.
My vision for Pocatello is of a community that takes care of one another and of a government that makes things as easy as possible to do. I want to listen to the people of Pocatello, get to know them, and talk to them. And I want the people of Pocatello to be able to businesses here, to thrive here, and to take care of themselves, their families, and each other.
Thank you very much. Vision for Pocatello, I think we've been growing together for years. Pocatello's been a great place for everybody, very welcoming, and I'm excited about moving forward in the future. We have spent a lot of time building places for people to meet. Just down the street, 2 blocks, we have Lookout Park. That is a park that we didn't have before. It is one of the busiest parks we have right now. Something that our downtown area definitely needed, and we continue to grow together as we attend activities in that park. Another thing that we need to do in Pocatello, and we need to continue to do in Pocatello, is have a good relationship with Idaho State University. Idaho State University is a gem. We have right here, there's so many different activities and different opportunities for people that are in the community and also people that are coming into the community and being able to bring them and take them out of Idaho State University into our community.
As I thought about what this would look like if I had the opportunity to lead this city, I came down with a number of really critical things. The first one is we need to do better with our government collaboration between ISU, Pocatello, the city of Chubbuck, Bannock County. There are some strains there that need to be repaired. We need to have a stronger support system for our small businesses. You can tell the health of a community by the health of their small business ecosystem. We need to really focus on what our city government is going to look like moving forward. We need to look at city systems so that the systems run automatically, regardless of who's in charge. We need to focus on our economic development in a regional approach. We need to rebuild trust and respect in our public safety segment. We've got to really take a look at our responsible budgeting process. Transparency and accountability, you'll hear about that a lot tonight, and then unified community systems. That's what I see we can focus on.
The next question is on economic development. Brian, this will come to you first. Given Pocatello's history of economic development incentives, what is your specific plan to attract high-paying businesses and industries that will provide livable wages and retain our educated young people? And how will your approach differ from previous efforts?
Economic development is something that I have focused on for years, and been able to see a lot of growth in our economic development throughout our community. We have added a number of positions and a number of opportunities for people across the board. Right now, as I look at the Department of Labor Statistics, we have about 3,000 people employed in Pocatello. So right now, I think we need to work on getting high-paying jobs, higher-paying jobs. Although, I will tell you, there are jobs available. There's about 2,500 jobs available. Some of those pay upwards of 6 digits. We have some great large businesses, and we're continuing to court and continue to bring as many businesses as we can in our community. Small businesses are thriving right now in Pocatello. Our downtown area is 94% net capacity. They are thriving. We are very good at supporting local businesses.
Economic development has been a real focus of mine throughout the years. It started on the Pocatello Development Authority when Roger Chase appointed me to that, and then I moved to the Bannock Development Corporation. But one of the areas that we can do better at is more of a regional approach. We kind of have gotten into this pattern of go at it alone, and we really need to focus on utilizing the resources that are within our reach regionally, and helping everyone. A rising tide raises all boats, and there are opportunities for us to do that right now. One of the things that we can do is create an economic development coordinator position, not take over economic development within the city, but have a coordinator position that actually works with all of our economic development resources and business groups, Chamber of Commerce, bring everybody together and create a unified economic development vision so we're headed in the same direction.
Yeah, recently I've been knocking on a lot of doors with my campaign, just chatting with a lot of folks, and economically I can tell you they're not happy. It's not as rosy as what Mayor Glenn is saying, but I think our small businesses out there are struggling. I think many of them exist, and they're there, but I'm talking to a lot of small business owners that are just having a tough time right now. I'm also hearing a lot of missed opportunities. I think the city has built up a reputation that we're not closing the gaps, so we're not paying attention to the little details. But I've got to figure that out. First thing I would do is that some of these employers that we missed, that the fish that have gotten away, that I think we need to talk to them and follow surveys and see what the issues were. We need persistency in the mayor's office. We need to negotiate. We need to have good communication. We need to have good planning. We need to have a one-stop shop. There's much room for economic growth.
So Pocatello does have plenty of opportunities around here. We have the industrial, retail, pretty good tourism too. One of the things I love about Pocatello is playing outside. But I don't really want the mayor's office to be in charge of new measures when it comes to business. So some of the traditional incentives would be compensating utilities or building roads to earn rates for businesses, and of course the tax incentives. And I'm not a proponent of giving bigger companies tax breaks to come in and crush small businesses and then leave. I really would like businesses to come here and make this place their home. So encouraging local entrepreneur fairs, for example, for all ages, or incentivizing local small to medium businesses to come in, because if we can create jobs ourselves together, we need someone to come in and not something the same.
Our next next question has to do with budget and taxes, and we'll be starting with Ms. Leonhardt. With citizens being overwhelmed by rising taxes, utilities, and fees, what is your plan to control spending, reduce the tax burden on residents, and ensure the city operates more efficiently while maintaining essential services?
All right, so yes, big slash and burn cuts are popular, but they are pretty unrealistic. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I can't promise hiring freezes or spending freezes, because if fire truck breaks, then that's some money to fix it. Some of the grants, I think this administration has done well on that, and their bills don't tax the city directly, so they're a good idea. Our essential services, water, wastewater management, street, fire, police, sanitation, that's about $100 million or $160 million budget. So there's improvement here. First, I want to reduce the mayor's salary to the median household income, because I believe service, I believe that my pay should be tied directly to community health. I've got my plans to see me in the foyer later, because my time is almost up.
Budget and taxes is a very difficult thing at the city, at any city level. You've got so many different things that people are asking for. We have asked a number of times, what would we do without this? And every time I ask that, people don't have a clue what they would do with that, because we love our services that we have right now. We have a good, balanced budget. The city council has worked extremely difficult and very, very hard in making sure we have a good, solid budget. The city of Pocatello. We have increased our taxes in the very middle over the last number of years, and the reason is we have to. Prices of goods go up. If you want to continue to have the services that you have, you've got to pay for those services. People are not that interested in losing a lot of those services, and so that's where we are with it. Cost of goods, when you're talking about fees, is the same thing. It costs an awful lot of money to run a city this size. Thank you. Not near enough time.
There's some in-depth questions for answer in 60 seconds. Let me give you a real example of one of the things we can do. First of all, you cannot cut the budget to prosperity. It doesn't work that direction. So there really has to be a robust economic development long-term program. Now let me share with you, when I was on the city council, one of the things that I was able to get done is have a return and report process from the departments. Before we started building the budgets, they came in and they reported on the activities of the year. They reported on the money that they were allocated and how they spent that money. And I've got to tell you, for the most part, we didn't find a lot of fraud. We didn't find anything that was out of the ordinary. There were pieces and parts that we could tighten up, but it was very valuable for us as city council members to see what our departments were doing, but also it was beneficial for the department heads and their employees to report the good things that they were doing. And I would re-implement that.
Yes, it is a very broad question. I cover it just 1 minute. One thing I would offer to you is that my professional experience, that I've spent 15 years in management of farmers insurance, and the last 18 years as the CEO of NeighborWorks Pocatello. When I took over in 2007 at NeighborWorks Pocatello, we were in financial disarray. We had received an audit a month after I started from NeighborWorks America, our parent organization, and our status was downgraded to vulnerable. And within a 5-year period, we built that up under my leadership to exemplary, which we are right now. But I think step one was getting a handle on our financials that, yes, there are services out there, but are there duplications in different departments? And if you have good, solid financials that everyone understands in the council, it will be an open book for the financials. Lastly, economic development. I think the key is to grow. We've got to grow our tax base to get past this problem.
Speaking, we'll start with units around infrastructure and parks. How will you prioritize and fund the completion of projects, address eyesores, maintain our parks and cemetery to acceptable standards while ensuring projects are completed rather than left unfinished?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. How will you prioritize and fund the completion of projects, address eyesores, maintain our parks and cemetery to acceptable standards while ensuring projects are completed rather than left unfinished?
That is a lot. Wow. I'm trying to figure out how to fit all that in. The bottom line is we have not done a great job of maintaining the things that we have, and we build new things. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but we've got to have some really tough discussions in the future. One of the things that we can guarantee that we know is going to happen is we're getting less revenue from the state of Idaho and less revenue from the federal government. And so we are going to need to sit down and have real conversations about what we want our city to look like moving into the future. Sometimes those are not going to be easy conversations. But the bottom line is it has to come back down to what do we see as a sustainable budget. There are a lot of projects out there, and there are a lot of things that we gain ownership of that the city takes over from other groups. Thank you.
Sure, I think that those things like parks and recreation are near and dear to a lot of people. And I've just seen like a downward trend of how we're taking care of things. That driving around town this spring, all around lawns, the city entrances look terrible. There are issues with the cemetery that what's wrong, that it just, I don't understand, the turnover or whatever the issue is there. But I've taken a look at the Parks and Recreation Open Space Plan, and there are a lot of provisions in that plan that call for long-term maintenance and setting reserves aside for long-term maintenance. And in our parks, a lot of that playground equipment is like from the 80s and very old. The bathrooms are in very poor shape. That there's just not the priority. There's not the long-term focus there. So I think we've got to take a look at maintaining just really what we have and figuring that out.
So this is one of those situations where spending is a really necessary thing for the well-being of our city. I think we have a good deal of aging infrastructure that's going to need to be replaced and repaired coming up here pretty soon. So if what we're doing is where we can, contracting better with contractors, I think is something that should be worked on. I was walking over the bridge over today that's looking pretty rough, so I think that getting or following the plans that might already in place or coming up with a replacement and maintenance cycle, if that hasn't been done already, is going to be critical for us and infrastructure and those things that we can't live without for long. I think we all want our water lines to work, so that's important for us.
Well, one way we will continue to keep the price down and the taxes down is through grants. Steve here mentioned we're getting less money. We're not necessarily getting less money, we're getting different money from the federal government and the state. It's coming in different forms. The grants are still available. Let me tell you about some of the things that we have done this in the last 2 years. Our community recreation center has been upgraded and renovated, working with private company here. Our Ross Park Aquatic Center, we have 2 new water slides. We had a water slide that was no good for years. We now have two of them. We have the upgrades at the swimming pool and the aquatic center have just been incredible. Zoo Idaho, we have all kinds of new programs and different opportunities for people to visit Zoo Idaho. First Park, formerly Mayoral Park, new playgrounds. We are replacing new playground equipment all over the community right now. 1 minute is tough.
The next question is concerning environment and climate, and we'll start with Mark Ellis. With air quality concerns with increasing wildfire smoke and climate change impacts, what specific policies will you implement to protect our air quality, reduce the city's carbon footprint, and improve environmental quality?
The one thing looking through the 2040 comprehensive plan, that there is a provision in there is a goal and strategy to make the city's equipment more, electric vehicles, I guess, or hybrid. There's some things in that 2040 consolidated plan that I think are good that the city can control. But air quality from wildfire smoke, I don't feel like I have a lot of expertise there. But just in general, a comment about that 2040 comprehensive plan. But there are many provisions in there, including the environmental. And I think we've got to do a very sharp job with following that comprehensive plan. As a manager, we have strategic plans in place, the long-term strategic plans. And what we have to do every year for our board of directors is that we have an annual operating plan. And so what I'm getting at is that those strategic plans, sometimes I feel like they're collecting dust on the shelf. And doing that annual operating plan and department directors being responsible for reporting out the goals is where we're at on a quarterly basis.
All right, so this is one where consulting experts, I think, would be a good idea to give an educated answer, but collaborating usually with emergency management, or especially wildfires, firefighting, is going to be more important if that continues to trend upward. And unfortunately, I don't know a lot about it, so that would be a question that I would seek out expert input from before I take any decision that will affect the city.
Okay, maybe I'm gonna yell. We'll see how it goes. I want to go back to the last question really quick, and I'll get this one as fast as I can. A few other activities that we've done in the park system. Pickleball courts. We have 5 new pickleball courts. Brooklyn's Playground has a brand new surface on it. We have an IACCU splash pad out at our OK Ward Park. We have greenway trails. We've added miles of greenway trails. And part of that important thing about answering the forward question first here, air quality is important for all of us to handle. So things that the city of Pocatello are doing, we've adopted the Healthy City USA phrase, and we're encouraging people to bike and walk and get to work in different ways. We build our building with as much green energy as we possibly can to reduce any of those pollutants that may be in the air. And so we are doing an awful lot right now. It's a big overcome.
I'm going to take a little bit different approach to this. I believe we'll hear a theme from me, it's called regionalism. I believe that there's also a way to tackle this in an approach where we work with our neighbors, our neighboring communities, Bannock County and Chubbuck, and look for opportunities where we can share services. I think that's worthy of a conversation and a discussion. Look at what overlapping services that we might have. We have very large construction companies individually. Are there opportunities where we can implement a cooperative agreement and have fewer trucks out on the road and be able to accomplish the maintenance and the responsibilities that we have as communities to maintain what you expect as citizens? I think we could call that the One Community Initiative and really have an impact on both budget and also our environment.
So this next question is around immigration and ICE. Given, and Brian, we're going to start with you. Given that over 90% of Pocatello's population is Hispanic and mostly legal citizens, will you direct the police department to cooperate with ICE enforcement actions? And how will you ensure that immigration enforcement doesn't compromise public safety or lead to racial profiling of legal citizens?
ICE immigration. Thank you for that question. I can't wait to hear everybody else's answer to this as well. We have an agreement right now with the federal government, and we will cooperate. We will not go in and dictate, and we will not go and pick people up. If they want to pull people out of our community that are here, then they will be a part of that. We will stand and we will do everything we can to protect the citizens of Pocatello right now. Anybody that's here. We've done that. We will continue to do that as this major issue happens. We do have, and one thing I can't say, we have a very good relationship with all of the other agencies throughout the region, ICE being included in that. And so we work with them, and we will support them in what they're doing. We will not know what they're doing.
With my discussions with the police department, we do have good relationships with those around us. And I cannot give a different answer than Brian gave, and so I'm not going to bloviate.
On the federal mandates that we received that, kind of like being in the affordable housing industry, I don't always really agree with everything that Glenn says or some of our regulators, but as the steward, as the guy at the top of the city, that if I've got a federal mandate, I've got something that I need to follow, that's my responsibility to you as a citizen. And so I do feel like we have good relationships with the outside and with our regional partners, but long story short, that if I have a federal mandate, it is my duty to uphold that for the citizens.
So, I haven't heard a lot about Mexican hotels specifically, but I don't see the need to do their job for them. If they are willing to come in and do what they do, then I don't have any desire to make that easier for them. And if that means
We would like to remind you that these questions did come from the community, and that every category of questions that was given to us will be addressed tonight. That's why it's only 1 minute. So we want to hit them all. So, we're starting with Ms. Lee Martin, and this is about police and public safety. In light of the Victor Perez case, what specific reforms and accountability measures will you implement to prevent future incidents?
I think pretty much everyone who saw the video or read that video knows that the way that Victor Perez was killed was pretty awful. And because he died at the hands of city police, we have to talk about it, and we have to to make sure that we have a type of policing where this doesn't happen again. But I feel pretty uncomfortable pontificating about the death of somebody's son up here. The police talk about having 14,000 hours of training. So something drastically needs to change because 14,000 hours of training, this shouldn't have occurred like that. And this is where, again, experts in community-based policing will guide me to make the right decisions that people have to make.
Victor Burroughs was a tragedy that happened in our community. It was a tragedy for the community, it was a tragedy for the family, it was a tragedy for the police officers who were involved. It is going to be difficult for me to talk about because we're in the middle of a lawsuit, so I have to be very careful what I say and how I say it, but I can tell you this. Our officers were called to a domestic dispute with a deadly weapon, an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They responded, as we heard from the Attorney General, who has spent hours and hours and hours investigating this, that what happened there was it was a bad thing, but it was also done correctly. I can say, it's not a popular thing, but I can say that last year we had 40,000 different contacts with the public. And out of those, there was a lot of things that would be escalated. And it was a difficult thing for everybody. And I really wish I had more than about this.
There's some lessons to be learned here. One of those lessons is ensuring that there is continual communication with the public from the moment an incident happens. It's critical, even if there's not a lot to report, because we're talking about liability issues, lawsuit issues, and so it's very difficult to be able to share that kind of information. However, in the vacuum, in the absence of ongoing communication with the public, then people fill in those gaps with whatever they can imagine. And so what I'd like to do, I'd like to create the community engagement initiative. Part of that has to do with office hours and going out into the community. Gosh, I didn't even start. The community engagement initiative, I want to hold a public safety summit, innovation summit. I want to create a citizen advisory panel, as well as update and educate citizens and our responders on the latest crisis resources.
To answer the first part of that question, that yes, reforms are needed, the public out there is demanding that happens. We've got to have the private involvement from the citizens themselves, that the solutions that we work through cannot just be internal and be just the police department only. We have a very good police force, and I feel for the 4 officers that were involved. I hope they're getting some help, but I do think that this incident, that the lack of communication from the very start was problematic. That if I were the mayor, I would have been out there that evening or within 24 hours with the light to ensure the community that we're going to fix this. I think one of the things I learned from being the top dog, from being a CEO, is that the buck stops here. Sometimes you have to take the blame when there's shortcomings that on it, I take the blame, he immediately made statements and reassured the community that this mistake was not going to happen again. And I would have visited the family in the hospital.
Our next question, Steve, we'll have you start, and then public input on decisions comes too late to have meaningful impact? How will you structure the decision-making process to increase ongoing citizen engagement?
Great question. The first thing I would do, I mentioned office hours. I think it's important. Many citizens can't get to a city council meeting or to a regular work study session during the middle of the day. And so I think it's important. I did this as a county commissioner where we got all 7 elected officials from the county. They were not all they were not all Republicans or Democrats. They were mixed. And we had successful office hours in all of our rural communities where the public could come during those office hours and ask any question, try to find out any information. Those were very well received and very successful. And it helped us grow as elected officials into a unified body in the services and programs that we were trying to deliver on the county level. I think we should do that as well. I think also part of this is also a community survey, a regular community survey, where citizens can give their feedback in real time. We have the technology to be able to do that, and AI to be able to process that and summarize all that.
Yes, I think collecting community input and being good conversationalists with the citizens is really key. That in my profession in the works Pocatello, we're a collaboration of business, government, and residents. And residents often don't have a voice. And we do everything that we can to train them, to have them be more confident, let them know how like city kind of policies and city decision making works. And so in my profession, I guess just look at the purpose of the pudding that we involve our residents all the time. We're very good experience with that. Quick example of that, a quick story is that we put together the Bonneville Common subdivision, and that's like 26 unit houses over at Bonneville School, in Bonneville School. Before we even did anything, before we broke ground, we went to talk to the Bonneville Neighborhood Association. We went 2 or 3 times before we went to the school board and asked them to buy that school and make up our plans. And so that community outreach, giving people a voice, and people hate surprises, so you have to be proactive.
I think that one of the most important parts of being a mayor is to be out in the community, to be listening to and talking to people of Pocatello, preferably in person. I think a volunteer mayor program would be great. We're great in Grassroots Park. Time demands are real, so maybe it's something like an after hours of your live stream, so that more people can give their input would be a good idea. I also like to institute community petitions for non-essential projects, because there isn't a lot of knowledge about maybe success before they happen. There was some discussion on this of restating parking meters going on, and I wasn't listening to that because it's there, and some of the people I spoke to weren't either. But a community petition would guarantee both support and provide knowledge of things that might be considered in city government.
Public input is a very difficult thing to get at the city. And I am very interested in anybody's idea of how to get more public input. Let me tell you what we're doing. We have public meetings all over the community. A great example of that is the 2040 master plan. We built that plan over a year and a half. We were in every community at least twice, asking for input. Very few people showed up to do that. There's the new mayor's newsletter that I write once a month that gives people an opportunity to write back and let them know some ideas and their thoughts on different things. It also informs people of different activities and different things that we are working on in the city. We have a city app. How many out here have downloaded the City of Pocatello app? Only a few hands. Thank you for doing that. We have a city app that we're begging for information from people. We have the Idaho State Journal that is more than happy to write many different letters and different things. And when it comes to being in the public, I don't think there's a mayor that's been in the public more been there. I have been stopping grocery stores. I've been eating dinner with my family and talking to people. I know I see that, but everybody else is on the path, so I'm is specific. Until we stop everybody else. We have been available. We are very, very available. The city council in the community doing things all over the time. If somebody has a better way to get public input, I am all ears. I would absolutely love it. Thank you.
Our next question is on housing, and it will start with Mark Alquist. With housing costs rising and availability limited, what specific policies will you support to make housing more accessible?
Sure, well, housing is really my expertise, and so with that knowledge of farmers, I started making works at Pocatello, that the last 30 years we've built over 200 homes and affordable homes for folks. And that's added $42 million to the tax base for the local and county economy. I've heard a lot of people say that the city really can't do much for affordable housing. Well, yes, they can, and we can have better zoning codes, we can have more flexibility there. When we put together the Mayoral Commons development, we wanted to do that a certain way, and when we first went to the city planning department, our only option was to do like long skinny lots there. The houses would look really odd there. And long story short, we looked at the city's comprehensive plan and it called for lots of exceptions there, more flexibility in the code for infill development in our older neighborhoods. Well, guess what? We got that changed. We pointed right to the city plan, and the result is that we were able to do that development like we can. So zoning and many other options out there too.
So, on a national level, private equity has gone up something like 25% in houses. I don't know if that's exactly the same here, but there are things that I think we as the city government can do. One of those things is clarity, consistency, and helpfulness as far as permitting goes. I personally had to do some home renovation permits, and the process was pretty opaque and frustrating in that way. Yeah, another idea would be something like community-owned housing. So, to do a co-op apartment building where everybody is a part owner in that building, and then the rent and fees and such go to the building, and people maybe even get some shares in it that way. So there are things we can do. We have to try something, because doing nothing is not helping anybody.
Pocatello ranked as the most affordable place to buy a home in the state of Oregon. I know it sounds crazy, but check prices everywhere else. It is the most affordable. Now, the real question is, what is affordable housing? Mr. Douglas built a block full of houses at $400,000 in Colorado. I couldn't afford that house. So what is affordable housing? What really is it? I think we have a lack of housing stock in the city of Pocatello. In fact, I know we've got a couple hundred houses on the market right now. The fewer houses you have on the market, the more expensive houses are going to be. We have sold over 1,000 different permits for housing for next year. We have taken a zoning issue and we have made exceptions to help housing be built in Pocatello. Pocatello is doing an awful lot right now to help with the housing crisis. And it is a global crisis, it's a national crisis, that's for sure. But the real question is, what is affordable? According to Mark, affordable is over $400,000. That's not affordable.
I spoke earlier about the development coordinator position. That strategy also fits into here, the second responsibility. First being economic development, second being the ability for a developer, a builder to come in if there is a hiccup in the system or a hurdle in the permit processing system. being able to have a go-to person to help overcome that hurdle and take the time that it takes to go through and get a permit approved or an inspection done from sometimes months down to weeks. It's one of the things that we can do because time is money. The second thing that we need to look at is impact fees. This is a hard one because you've got to pay for sewer and water up front. That's what we do. The problem is the long-term strategy should be looking at creating the economic development of the building and building out that economic base, that property tax base, so that in the long run, the overall impact reduces the taxes for everybody else.
And this is our final question before we get to closing statements. Brian, we'll start with you. This is surrounding the airport. Well, what is your vision for the airport to help drive economic growth in our community?
Our airport is an interesting airport. Let me just explain it to you very quickly. It is the city of Pocatello. It is surrounded by the Fort Hawk Indian Reservation, and it's in Powell County. Yeah, figure that out. It's a tough one. What we will do and we'll continue to do, we did everything we can to develop the airport. And what ended up happening is we couldn't. And so we went to Congress, we went to DC, and we said, we need help. And so we passed a law for the city of Pocatello and for the rest of the places so we can actually start developing our airport. Pocatello Airport is also an interesting one because it's city-owned. We cannot sell the land, we can only lease the land. So when you have somebody coming in and saying, I want to put a $300 million plant here, they want to own the land, and they can't. We can't do that. So we've had to be very limited in the things that we do. We're continuing to work. We're continuing to do what we do with the airport to help the airport grow, and hopefully we'll be able to get economic development started at the airport with that. There in a minute.
Unique. I think we also need to make sure that we're not treating our airport as a regular airport. I think we have opportunities to work with the Chauvin tribes, especially this next group of leaders that are coming up. We need to be prepared for when that happens so that we can engage them in an economic development program with them as a partner out at the airport. The airport is also part of the larger logistics of shipping. I don't know why this is such a hard thing for us to try to do, but for the last 40 years we've talked about how it's the intersection of the highway, the railroad, and air freight. We've got to figure out how to tie all that together and actually make it work, because all we've done is talk about it.
I think the Pocatello Regional Airport is a gem that we can really build on. I had a good chat with the director there a couple of weeks ago and his assistant that there are acres and acres of developable land out there that's flat, and you do have to lease that land. But I think one thing Pocatello really has going for it, with economic development, we need to look at our strengths, and I think one of the strengths we have is the transportation. We're at the intersection of two interstate highways. We've got the rail transportation. The airport lends itself very well for some distribution companies, trucking distribution and such there. So I see the airport as a real underdeveloped gem, and I think with some focus there on the things that we do really well, that it's a highly developable product.
Alright, so what is an airport exactly? It is a place for planes to land, to take off, and to refuel. This one because it is sort of a little bit of a special one. We can leverage it a bit with businesses like flight schools or drone operations or flight tours and things like that. But I think businesses want to come in, they should leverage private investment for that. And to get people to use the airport, we, the city of Pocatello, need to become the destination and to to be better and to improve here in our town so that the airport is used more frequently.
So it's going to closing statements, and Gary and I just give them 2 minutes for your closing statement, so maybe a little bit more time. We're going to start with Alana and move over to the city council to Mark, Stephen, and Brian. So Alana, you've got 2 minutes.
Thank you. So a couple of my goals that I'd like to close with for you. I'd like to reduce the mayor's pay to median household income. That's about $57,000. I make a service, I'm going to take care of the community. I don't believe I should be making twice as much. I'd like to start doing community petitions for non-essential projects, getting people knowledgeable and involved, and making sure that they want the thing that's going to be done in their area will, in my opinion, reduce a lot of the frustration with how many decisions can be made behind those doors. We need to hire a CFO to do a clear audit of the budget and find ways that something can be cut, but overall, big cuts aren't something that I would be knocking out. I hope very much that I have earned your note and I'm going to be doing more meets and interactions with people, both at meeting and should I win the election as mayor. Let's do take a mayor real quick. Continue your work to your department and show your job and talk to me. Just as long as the involvement continues. If not, if none of us out there are someone who people, please consider running yourself next time. Get involved, volunteer, take care of people in their community, and Pocatello will continue to be a place of opportunity for us all.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here for those that put before. I think just looking at Mark Dulles, look at my experience that I've spent 15 years in management at Farmers Insurance. I started a department there called Farmers.com. It was toward the last 5 years when I was there. I built that department from the ground up. We built that to 55 employees and 3 supervisors. I got the Management Excellence Award for the Farmers Insurance Company for that year that happened. NeighborWorks Pocatello, 18 years, as I mentioned early on, and I'm the CEO there. We're a robust nonprofit, but we have $14 million in assets that I have a budget of $2 million. We're not a nonprofit to sneeze at. And what I was mentioning earlier about housing development, that we have added a lot of houses to the tax base, and housing is one way to grow our income, to grow our property taxes. That affordable housing, it's really a complicated thing, and that one of the things that's involved in that is having subsidies and having low interest loans and deferred loans and things like that. You can't look at price alone on the developments. That was overstated there, the price of the wonderful comments. But affordable housing is really key, and that I've heard one of my rival candidates, I guess, that's not here, but he mentioned that affordable housing, that takes care of itself if we just grow our economy and grow our wages. Well, I want to grow wages, but that's not true, that's off base for that. We need to have tools in place, because when you have a growing economy, you also have growing house prices that grow bigger than or faster than wages. But in closing, that I'm experienced, that I don't need a new job. I've been in my job for a long, long time, and I'm doing this for my local Pocatello. I see this as my next chapter in my life.
Along with everybody else, I'd like to thank the League and the Journal for putting this on. I'd also like to thank the 3 other people sitting up here who have the courage to do it. I really believe Pocatello is at a crossroads, and I have met so many people these last few months that have the intellect and the resources. If they were put together in the right order, in the right place, at the right time, Pocatello could be unstoppable. We have so much potential, and I'm so excited about what we could do together. Part of a community is making sure that we take care of each other. And the example that I have for that is one of the things I did up in Alaska with the Small Business Administration was work with our resource partners to create a service matrix. I think we ought to do that. I think we ought to create the Pocatello Cares Council, and I think we ought to create this matrix where all of the nonprofits and all of the different service organizations come together and we map out all of the resources that they provide. And then we look for those overlapping areas and we see where there are opportunities for organizations to refocus on their core mission, and then look for those gaps to make sure that the people that need it the most aren't falling through the cracks. So with that, I think we can pull together the things that we need in Pocatello. We have enough smart people here to be able to do that. I bring a collaborative, results-driven approach, as well as a community problem-solving approach. I think regionally, we have the ability to do that. I'm not running to fight late battles. I'm not looking in the past. I'm looking into the future. And I think with the experiences that I have, the networks that I've built, that we can make that happen. So I would appreciate your support for Steve Brown for Pocatello Mayor.
Thank you to the league. Thank you for spending the evening with us tonight. We really do appreciate it. And I just mark your opponent that said all those things that didn't have the courage to come up here is actually here listening in the audience today. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to hear from him from what he really wanted to think. But let me tell you a story. When I took office, 2010, when I took office, the city of Pocatello was borrowing money to make payroll for 5 months out of the year. City of Pocatello was bankrupt. I was a small business owner. I ran a very successful small business. I gave that up, and I came and I started working in the city of Pocatello and working for the citizens here. We have gone from having zero money and borrowing money to make payroll. And I mean borrowing money from November and December to make payroll. And then in May and June to make payroll. So that we can keep the lights on in the city of Pocatello. To today, we have excess reserves. We have been able to accomplish a number of things that we have collectively worked on for years. We've got the South Highway Connector is a great example of that. That we had planned since 1968. We were able to get that done. We have a new animal shelter. We have 2 new slides. We have pickleball courts. We've got a new splash pad. We're building new parks. We are replacing parks equipment all over the community. The city of Pocatello is in the best financial shape the city of Pocatello has ever been right now with the excess reserves that we have. We're able to continue to work that way. Experience, you've got it right here. I'm running the city. We've done it. We've been able to make that happen. So if you're looking for experience, you've got it right here. I would just say, I would appreciate your vote coming up November 4. Please vote for it.
That's all the questions that we have for tonight. Many thanks to our candidates and the audience for attending this evening. I especially want to thank the Idaho State Journal for partnering with us and bringing this forum to all of you and giving me the opportunity to submit your questions beforehand. That was a wonderful opportunity. This forum was recorded and will be available for viewing the next few days at idahostatejournal.com and the League of Women Voters Pocatello website and on YouTube. Please be sure to speak to the candidates after the forum in the foyer. If you're interested in becoming part of the League of Women Voters Pocatello, but also have a table there. League is open to all people, men and women. women, our mission is to register and educate voters. We want to remind you that your voice matters. Make a plan, vote on November 4th. Please be aware that in the case of no candidate receiving 50% of the vote, there will be a runoff election